Assalamu alaikum, Miss Fatma is speaking. Welcome to TEFL Course. Today, inshallah, we'll discuss Unit 4, which is about describing learning and teaching. Okay, children and language. Language development in children is a process that starts early in human life. When a child begins to acquire language by learning it as it is spoken and by mimicry. So here, if I ask you what is language, yeah, and what is speech, or what is the difference between language and speech? Yeah, here language is a code that we learn to use in order to communicate ideas and express our wants and needs. So, reading, writing, speaking are some forms of language. Okay. Here, so language means, okay, the communication of thoughts and feelings, okay, through a system of signals such as voice sounds, gestures, or written samples, as you see here, okay, in this picture, okay. But speech is the spoken form of language. Yes, the spoken form, okay, of language. So speech is the act of expressing or describing thoughts, feelings, or perceptions by the articulation of words. Yes. How do children, how do children acquire language? Again, how do children acquire language? Of course, children learn language and speech by listening to the language around them and practicing what they hear. In this way, they figure out the rules of the language code. So it is not learned all at once, but in stages over time. Okay, children go through a number of different stages as language develops, from the earliest stage, from the earliest stage of producing sounds through being able to produce complex multi-word sentences. Okay, as the children age, they continue to learn more new words every day. By the time they enter school, around the age of 5, 6, and children typically have a vocabulary of 10,000 words or more. Yes. So at first, children or students will begin with one word and two words utterances and will then begin to make complete sentences. Yes. Acquisition and learning. Yes. What is language acquisition? What is language acquisition? Language acquisition is the process by which humans acquire the capacity to perceive and comprehend language, as well as to produce and use words and sentences to communicate, as you see here, in the picture, in this picture. Yes. So acquisition is so acquisition requires meaningful interaction in the target language, which means natural communication in which speakers are concentrated not in the form of their utterances, but in the communicative act. Okay, here, okay, if I ask you just to identify if this sentence is true or not. Yes, language acquisition, okay, requires extensive use of conscious grammatical rules and require, okay, tedious drill, okay. Of course not. Why? Here, okay, the correction of that, language acquisition doesn't require extensive use of conscious grammatical rules, and okay, it doesn't require tedious drills, because acquisition requires meaningful interaction in the target language, in which speakers are concerned not with the form of their utterances, but speakers are concerned with the messages they are conveying and understanding. So children acquire language, okay, here children acquire language through a subconscious process during which they are unaware of grammatical rules. Children readily acquire the language to communicate with friends, okay, with parents, with, okay, etc. So in order to acquire language, the learner needs a source of natural communication. The emphasis is on the text of the communication and not on the form. So young students who are in the process of acquiring English get plenty of on-the-job practice. Okay. Here, okay, if I ask you, what is learning? Yes, what is learning? Yes, here, okay, learning is the product, yeah, of formal instruction, and it comprises a conscious process which results in conscious knowledge about the language. For example, knowledge of grammar rules. So in language learning, yeah, here students have conscious knowledge of the new language and they can talk about that knowledge. Students can fill in the blanks on a grammar page. Okay, so what is the difference between acquisition and learning? What is the main what is the main difference between acquisition and learning? Of course, acquisition is a gradual development. It happens naturally. So acquisition happens through interaction with the ones who are native speakers. Okay, here, the focus is on meaningful communication, not on grammatical forms. But learning is the conscious process. So grammar, vocabulary, and rules are learned in controlled manners. Okay, learning happens in schools, colleges, universities, and so on. Activities and methods are designed and the focus is on grammar. Yes. Here, okay, if I ask you just to identify if this statement is true or not. Learning is less important than acquisition. What do you think about that? Yes, of course. Learning is less important than acquisition. Can you justify your answer? Yes. Okay. Here, okay, it's clear that as teachers, we want to maximize our students' opportunities to acquire language. If we, as teachers, accept the hypothesis, then we as teachers need to spend more time using real language with our students, as opposite to teaching them explicit grammar rules. Yes. So here, in order to obtain language acquisition, some conditions must be met. Okay, such as the children must be exposed to the language a lot. It is the most vital element. Yeah. And secondly, it is important to keep the language as simple as possible and avoid technical vocabulary or complex structure. Okay, this is called rough tuning. Yes. Here, okay, this is called rough tuning, and yes, yes. Here, okay, so when parents talk to their children, they simplify what they say, both consciously and unconsciously. Parents don't use complex sentences, okay, or technical vocabulary. Okay. Also, parents use language which fits in the situation, so parents often exaggerate the intonation they use so that their voices sound higher and more enthusiastic than they would if they were talking to friends, colleagues, or partners. Here, okay, this is related to, okay, to the exposure, okay. So here, okay, if we as teachers want our students or our children to acquire a language, okay, we present them to three stages. The first one is exposure to the language, yeah. The second one is motivation, okay, is the motivation to communicate with the language, and the third one is give our students opportunities to use the language. Yes, here, okay. Um, yes, here, okay. Just, okay, in teaching and learning, yes, okay, in teaching of a second language, a teacher must be able to give the learner comprehensible input. Okay, what does comprehensible input mean here? Yes, yes. Yes, of course. This means, yeah, okay, language that the students, okay, understand more or less, even if it is a bit their own level of production. So students will be able to retrieve the language they need from their acquired language store. Yes, and okay, here, okay, this is because the learners have to think much more consciously about what they want to say. Yeah, and okay, here the principal function of learned language is to monitor what is coming from our acquired language production and may inhibit spontaneous communication. Yes, here, okay, so that, okay, rich classroom, okay, environment would not only expose students, okay, to language, okay, but also give our students opportunities to activate their language knowledge and the way it works too. Since for some learners, okay, this will be the key to their success, and for all others, okay, it will be an added bonus to other activities which we as teacher take into the classroom. In other words, yeah, here, okay, both acquisition and learning have their part to play in language getting for students after childhood. So here, okay, as teachers, we need to focus on, okay, just to activate, okay, our students. And here, okay, the second one here, okay, just to give chances for our students to study the language and learn the way, okay, it works and is used. Yeah. Okay, here different times, different methods. Yes. Okay, this means, okay, here, okay, different times and different methods. It is about the acquisition and learning a new language. Is okay, how to help our students to learn more effectively. So there are different methods of teaching and second, okay, of teaching a second language. Okay, methods like, okay, the lexical approach here. Yes. Here, okay, lexical approach. Yes, suggested, okay. Here, okay, lexical approach, yes, okay, where it was suggested, okay, that we as teachers should structure our curriculum around language chunks. Okay, these are the various phrases, okay, of two or more words which we as teachers use as units of meaning to communicate with. Okay, another here, okay, method is silent way. Yes, where teachers, yeah, do little talking and the onus, okay, is put on the students. So this means that all the responsibility fell in the students. Yes, another, okay, method is community language learning. Okay, here, okay, where bilingual, yeah, teachers help students to translate what they want to say, okay, okay, from their first language into the language they are learning. Okay, also here we have grammar translation method. Yeah, the grammar translation method was introduced, okay, or okay, which was first named as such in Germany in, okay, the 17th, 18th century, introduced, okay, the idea of presenting students with short grammar rules and word lists, and then translation exercises in which they had to make use of the same rules and words. So, if students are always translating the language, they are not using the language too for communication. Okay, here, okay, this method, okay, by, okay, here in grammar translation method, okay, yes, teachers teach people about language, but okay, don't really help them to communicate effectively with it. Yes, here we have another method, which is, okay, okay, idiolingualism method. Yes, here, okay, this method, okay, emphasizes on a grammatical pattern. Yes, okay, but here, yes, okay, in effective idiolingual classes made extensive use, okay, of drilling in which students produced the same grammatical pattern, but were prompted to use, okay, different words within the pattern in the hope that they would acquire good language habits. Okay, so by rewarding corrective production during these repetition phases, students could be conditioned into learning the language. Yes. And here we have some of the exercises in this method, which is idiolingualism method, consists in giving a cue response drills and avoidedly doing any type of a drill. Here, okay, cue response drills. Okay, here, okay, for example, yes, cue response drills was only okay later that people realized all the other uses all the other uses to which laboratories could be put, such as exposing okay students to a variety of listening materials, and the laboratory drill okay went out of fashion. Yes. Okay, in general, okay, drilling, okay, whatever, choral and individual repetition and cue response drilling is still considered a useful technique to use. Yes, okay, especially with low-level students. And here we have PPP, okay, method. Here, okay, PPP stands for presentation, practice, and production. Here, okay, in PPP lessons, okay, the teacher presents the context and the situation for the language. For example, here describing someone's holiday plans, and both explains and demonstrates the meaning and form of the new language. For example, the going to future. Here the structure, okay, going to future. Here, for example, he is going to visit the museum. Okay, the students then practice making sentences with the structure going to. This is okay called controlled practice. Yes, controlled practice, and may involve a drilling okay before going on to the production stage, in which they talk more freely about themselves. So okay, in production stage, okay, students talk more freely about themselves. For example, next week I'm going to see that new film, or other people in the real world, yeah, such as my cousins, okay, going to buy a new mobile, etc. Yes, here, okay, the same procedure can be used, okay, for teaching students functions, okay, such as how to invite people, or for teaching vocabulary. Yes, we as teachers can teach pronunciation too, using the PPP method or procedure. Here, for example, after an explanation of how a sound is produced, okay, for example, students are involved in the controlled practice of words, okay, using the sound before they are asked to come up with their own words in which the sound is present. Yes, so here, okay, we as teachers can teach pronunciation, we can teach, okay, function, functions, okay, we can teach here, okay, grammar, etc. Yes. Yes, And here we have the communicative language teaching, CLT, which means the communicative language teaching method. Yes, here, the communicative language teaching method, has two main guiding principles. The first is that language is not just patterns, here, yes, the language is not just patterns of a grammar with vocabulary items slotted in, but also the language involves language functions such as inviting, agreeing, and disagreeing, suggesting, etc., which students should learn how to perform using a variety of language exponents. Yes, here, language exponents such as we as teachers can, yes, here, for example, we can invite by saying, would you like to come to the cinema? Yeah, here, here, what about, coming to the cinema? How about a film? Are you on for a film, etc.? So, here, also students need to be aware of the need of, here, to be aware of the need for appropriacy when talking and writing to people in terms of the kind of language they use: formal, informal, tentative, technical, etc. So communicative language teaching, is not just about the language, also it is about how the language is used. Yes, here the second principle, yes, of communicative language teaching is that if students get enough exposure, to language and opportunities for language use, and if they are motivated, then language learning will take care of itself. Thus the communicative language teaching has a lot in common with the acquisition view of language absorption. Here, so the focus of communicative language teaching has been on students communicating real messages and not just a grammatically controlled language. Here, to sum up, communicative language teaching has had a thoroughly beneficial effect since, it reminded teachers that people learn languages not, so that they know about them, but, so that they can communicate with them. Yes, and here the last one is task-based learning process. Here, TPL means task-based learning. In task-based learning, the emphasis is on the task rather than the language. Yes, give me an example about that. Yes, here, students perform real-life tasks such as getting information about past timetables or making a presentation on a certain topic. After the task has been completed and finished, students can look at the language they have used and work on any imperfections that they have arisen. Here, yes, or correcting grammatical mistakes or thinking about aspects of style. In other words, yes, here, the task itself is the main focus. Yes, and this approach, puts communicative activities at the heart of learning. Yes, here, task-based learning starts with a pre-task here, okay, where students are introduced, okay, to the topic and told what the task will be. A task cycle, and yes, here, okay, this is followed by a task cycle, okay, where the students, okay, plan the task, gathering language and information to do it, and then produce the piece of writing or oral performance that the task demands. In the final language focus phase, okay, here any language that, okay, here, okay, in the final language focus phase, students analyze the language they used for the task, okay, making improvements and practicing in a language that needs, okay, repair or development. So, task-based learning has allowed teachers and students to concentrate on how we achieve things with language, how we can use language for certain tasks, and it takes the third element, okay, which is production, as the starting point, not the end point of the procedure. Yes, here, okay, if I ask you, what are elements for successful language learning? Yes. What are successful, yes, sorry, what are elements for successful language learning? Yes. Here, okay, these elements, okay, here, okay, which are ESA, okay, elements for successful language learning, ESA. Here, E, which means engage, study means study means study, A means activate. So these elements, yeah, need to be present in a language classroom to help students learn effectively. Yes, okay, so the three main ingredients, okay, are engage, study, and activate. Here, okay, engage, okay, which means, okay, that students are really interested in what you have to say in class. Ask them to make predictions, relate the topics with real life situations. Okay, so this is the point in, okay, so engage is the point in a teaching sequence where teachers try to arouse the students' interest, thus involving their emotions and feelings. Okay, activities and materials which frequently engage students include games, music, discussions, stimulating pictures, dramatic stories. Yes. Here, okay, when students are engaged, they learn better than when they are partly or wholly disengaged. Yeah. And here the second ingredient is study, which means give, okay, students cues, discover activities, ask students to do all intellectual work instead of doing it. Yes. Here, okay, this means that, yes, okay, this means, okay, any stage at which the construction of language is the main focus, okay, also study activities are those where the students are asked to focus in on language and how it is constructed. Here, okay, some typical areas for study might be the study and practice of the vowel sound in chip and cheap, the study and practice of the third person singular of the present simple. Okay, for example, here, yes, the study and practice of inviting patterns, the study and the practice of the way we use pronouns in written discourse. Also, the study and the practice of paragraph organization, the study of the rules for using make and do. And the third one is activate, which means personalization of the activities. What do your students like to do? How it can be helpful in the future? For example, debate. Yes. So activate. Yes, here. Activate. This element describes exercises and activities which are designed to get students using language as freely and communicatively as they can. Some examples are debates and discussions, advertisement design, role plays, describe and draw, story and poem writing, writing in groups, etc. So here, these ESA elements need to be present in most lessons or teaching sequence. Yes. Thank you with my best wishes and regards for you.